Imagine a quiet neighborhood in Great Falls, Montana, where the smell of barbecue wafts through the air on a crisp afternoon in the mid-1990s. Friends and families gather around picnic tables, laughing and chatting as they dig into plates of chili, spaghetti, and peculiar-tasting deer burgers served by their jovial host, a heavyset man named Nathaniel Bar-Jonah. He smiles broadly, insisting everyone try his special recipes, boasting about how he hunted and prepared the meat himself. This is the chilling tale of Nathaniel Bar-Jonah, a man whose life unraveled into a web of pedophilia, abduction, murder, and suspected cannibalism, leaving a trail of shattered lives and unanswered questions that continue to haunt the American justice system. Born David Paul Brown on February 15, 1957, in Worcester, Massachusetts, Nathaniel's early years were marked by an unsettling undercurrent that foreshadowed the monster he would become. His family life appeared ordinary on the surface, a working-class household with parents who adhered to strict religious principles, including a conversion to Orthodox Judaism that would later influence his name change. But beneath this facade, young David exhibited behaviors that alarmed those around him. At just 7 years old in 1964, he received an Ouija board as a birthday gift, a seemingly innocent toy that he used as bait to lure a 5-year-old neighbor girl into his basement. What happened next was a harbinger of his predatory nature. He attempted to strangle her, his small hands wrapping around her throat in a fit of inexplicable rage. The girl survived, but the incident was dismissed as childish roughhousing, a grave oversight that allowed the seeds of evil to take root. As David grew into adolescence, his impulses escalated. By the age of 12, he had already begun to hone his manipulative skills, using deception to ensnare victims. In one disturbing episode, he dressed up as a cowboy and lured 2 young boys into a wooded area with promises of adventure, only to sexually assault them. These early acts went unreported or unpunished, emboldening him further. It wasn't until 1974, when he was 17, that the law caught up with him for the first time. Posing as a police officer, a tactic he would employ repeatedly throughout his criminal career, David enticed an 8-year-old boy into his car under the pretense of investigating a crime. Once isolated, he choked the child nearly to unconsciousness and molested him. Arrested and convicted, he received a shockingly lenient sentence, 1 year of probation. This slap on the wrist did nothing to curb his appetites. If anything, it reinforced his belief that he could evade true consequences. The following year, 1975, saw another brazen attack. Again impersonating a law enforcement officer, David abducted a 6-year-old girl from a post office, driving her to a remote location where he assaulted her. The girl's screams alerted passers-by, leading to his arrest. But once more, the system failed. Committed to Bridgewater State Hospital for evaluation, psychiatrists noted his deep-seated fantasies of violence, dissection, and even cannibalism. He confessed to vivid dreams of murdering children, torturing them, and consuming their flesh, fantasies that he described with chilling detachment. Despite these red flags, he was released after a short stint, diagnosed as sexually dangerous but deemed manageable in society. The evaluators' reports painted a picture of a young man tormented by urges he claimed to fight, but in reality, these confessions were manipulative ploys to garner sympathy. David's crimes continued to mount. In 1977, at age 20, he struck again, this time kidnapping 2 13-year-old boys by flashing a fake badge and claiming they were under arrest for vandalism. He handcuffed them, forced them to undress, and strangled one until he lost consciousness. Convicted of kidnapping and sexual assault, he was sentenced to 18 to 20 years at Bridgewater State Hospital. There, under the guise of treatment, he spent over a decade manipulating the system. He legally changed his name to Nathaniel Benjamin Levi Bar-Jonah in 1989, citing religious reasons, a move that allowed him to shed his old identity and start anew. During his incarceration, he gained enormous weight, ballooning to over 300 pounds, a physical transformation that made him appear less threatening but hid his predatory agility. Bridgewater was no sanctuary for rehabilitation. Bar-Jonah's time there was filled with reports of him sharing his grotesque fantasies with fellow inmates and staff. He spoke openly of wanting to taste human flesh, drawing diagrams of how he would dismember bodies and prepare them as meals. Psychologists like Dr. Michael Espy, who later interviewed him extensively, described him as a parasitic personality, a man who fed off the suffering of others, both metaphorically and, potentially, literally. Espy, an expert on psychopathic behavior who had spoken with the likes of Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy, found Bar-Jonah's detachment particularly unnerving. In tape sessions, Bar-Jonah would recount his urges with a flat affect, as if discussing the weather, revealing a profound lack of empathy that bordered on the inhuman. In 1991, after 12 years, Bar-Jonah was released on the condition that he move out of Massachusetts to avoid further temptations. He chose Great Falls, Montana, a small city of about 60,000 people nestled along the Missouri River, known for its wide-open spaces and tight-knit communities. Arriving under his new name, he blended in seamlessly at first. He found work as a short-order cook at local diners, including a stint at Hardee's, where his culinary skills earned him praise. He volunteered at churches, joined community events, and even ran a booth at flea markets selling toys and collectibles, perfect covers for accessing children. To neighbors, he was the affable, overweight guy who loved kids a little too much, always offering to babysit or host playdates. But beneath this veneer, the predator lurked. His first known victim in Montana was a 14-year-old boy named Joseph, whom he met through a church group in 1993. Bar-Jonah invited Joseph and his 8-year-old cousin over for dinner, drugging their food to render them helpless. He then sexually assaulted Joseph and hung the younger boy from the kitchen ceiling with a pulley system, torturing him for hours. The boys survived and reported the incident, but Bar-Jonah's charm and denials initially swayed investigators. It wasn't until 1999 that these charges would stick, but by then, more horrors had unfolded. The most infamous case linked to Bar-Jonah is the disappearance of 10-year-old Zachary Ramsey on February 6, 1996. Zachary, a bright-eyed boy with a love for school and sports, vanished while walking to Whittier Elementary School in Great Falls. It was a foggy morning, the kind where visibility is low and dangers hide in the mist. Witnesses reported seeing a large man in a blue jacket near the school, but no one thought much of it at the time. Zachary's mother, Rachel Howard, reported him missing when he didn't return home, sparking a massive search that gripped the community. Flyers plastered every storefront, volunteers combed the riverbanks, and prayers filled local churches, but Zachary was never found. Suspicion fell on Bar-Jonah in 1999 when police investigated him for unrelated assaults. A search of his apartment on North 15th Street revealed a house of horrors. Amid the clutter of toys, cookbooks, and religious artifacts, detectives uncovered encrypted journals filled with recipes that chilled them to the bone. Little boy pot pie, French fried kid, barbecued kid, and lunch is served on the patio with roasted child. These weren't mere fantasies. They included detailed instructions on butchering and seasoning human flesh. Hair clippings from unknown children were found in drawers, along with newspaper clippings about missing kids from across the country. More damning were the bones. In Bar-Jonah's garage, investigators discovered fragmented human remains, small bones that forensic analysis suggested belonged to a child aged 8 to 12. Though DNA testing was inconclusive due to the degraded state, the bones didn't match any known animal species typically consumed. Soil samples from under his floorboards contained traces of human blood. Neighbors recalled Bar-Jonah's frequent cookouts after Zachary's disappearance, where he served strange meat that tasted off gamey, unlike any deer or beef they'd had before. One guest remembered him saying, "I hunted this myself," with a sly grin. Another noted the absence of grocery receipts for meat in his trash, despite his constant cooking. Bar-Jonah's victim list, handwritten and coded, listed hundreds of names, including Zachary's and other missing children like Amanda Bachman from Nebraska and Jimmy Dolan from Massachusetts. Detectives believed he may have been responsible for up to 10 murders, luring kids with promises of candy or games, then abducting, assaulting, and disposing of them in the most gruesome way imaginable. In interviews, Bar-Jonah toyed with authorities, hinting at truths without confessing. "I've eaten things you wouldn't believe," he once smirked to a detective. When pressed about Zachary, he claimed the boy had run away, but his eyes betrayed a gleeful secret. The trial began in 2000 amid national media frenzy. Prosecutors painted Bar-Jonah as a calculating cannibal, presenting evidence from his Massachusetts past to establish a pattern. Witnesses, including survivors, took the stand, their voices trembling as they recounted the terror. Joseph described waking up bound, the smell of fear in the air. Rachel Howard, Zachary's mother, testified through tears, clutching a photo of her son. Defense attorneys argued insanity, citing his troubled childhood and mental health diagnoses, but the jury saw through it. In 2002, Bar-Jonah was convicted of kidnapping, aggravated assault, and sexual assault in the 1993 cases, sentenced to 130 years without parole. The murder charges for Zachary were dropped when Rachel came to believe, based on unverified sightings, that her son might still be alive. A heartbreaking twist that spared Bar-Jonah the death penalty but left justice incomplete. Confined to Montana State Prison, Bar-Jonah continued his manipulations, writing letters to pen pals about his recipes and claiming innocence. Dr. Spy's interviews, detailed in his book Eat the Evidence, revealed a man without remorse who viewed children as objects for gratification. Bar-Jonah died on April 13, 2008, from a heart attack, his massive body finally giving out at age 51. His death closed a chapter, but questions linger. What became of Zachary's body? How many other children fell victim? Forensic re-examinations in recent years have used advanced DNA tech to test the bones, but results remain inconclusive, fueling true crime podcasts and documentaries. The case of Nathaniel Bar-Jonah exposes the failures of a system that released a known predator multiple times, allowing him to roam free across states. It serves as a stark reminder of the monsters who walk among us, disguised as neighbors, cooks, and community members. In Great Falls, the echoes of those cookouts still whisper warnings. Beware the friendly face offering a meal, for evil can hide in the most ordinary places. And as the sun sets over the Missouri River, one can't help but wonder how many secrets remain buried, waiting to be unearthed.